Welcome back. You're watching Battleground 2018 on Rajya Sabha television. It's time, of course, for our big story now. We'll talk about Telangana and everything that's been happening there. The TDP, of course, released its manifesto on Wednesday. Several promises have been made by the TDP. There's also issue as far as the Mahakutami is concerned and the seat sharing process itself. There are several seats on which two members of the Mahagathbandhan, of course, are fighting as well. So we'll talk about how much of a problem that could be in the polls for the Mahagathbandhan and how is it going to impact, of course, the TRS and the other players in the state as well. But before that, let's take a look at the headlines. Congress leader Kamal Nath responds to BJP complaint over controversial video on seeking Muslim votes, says he only voiced promises the party has made in its election manifesto, denies allegations of misleading voters. Election Commission team visits Hyderabad for the third time to assess election arrangements, discussions with state officials to focus on facilities for women and the differently abled, printing of voter ID and Braille ID cards for visually impaired. In Mizoram, Election Commission arranges temporary polling stations at Kanmun village for displaced Bru voters, assures adequate security measures to cast ballot. RSTV's Vote Yatra reaches Maheshwar in Khargone, where voters are keeping their cards close to their chest amid a triangular contest between the BJP, Congress and local rebel candidates. And in our big story, fate of the Grand Alliance on test in the Telangana elections with a vote share higher than the TRS in the last assembly elections. Will the Congress-led Mahakutami partners succeed in transferring their votes to the joint alliance? Now for our big story from Telangana today, it's going to be the Telangana Rashtra Samiti versus the Congress-led alliance in Telangana on December 7th. While the ruling party is confident of winning, it is also not leaving any stone unturned to ensure that the opposition alliance fails in the state. The alliance partners too seem to be busy dousing internal fires, with the Congress working hard to quell dissent within the party over ticket distribution.
TDP Supremo N. Chandrababu Naidu will not share the stage with senior Congress leader Sonia Gandhi at her election rally in Telangana on Friday. Speculation about whether the leaders of the Prajakutami will share the stage has been doing the rounds ever since the alliance was forged for the upcoming Telangana assembly polls. Naidu will, however, campaign with Congress President Rahul Gandhi at some places during the latter's visit to the state on November 28th and 29th and December 3rd. But the decision to not campaign jointly with Sonia raises questions about how strong the alliance really is. For now, the December 7th election is being seen as a direct fight between the ruling TRS and the Congress-led Prajakutami. Of the Prajakutami partners, Congress will contest on 94 seats, Telugu Desam Party on 14 seats, Professor Kodandaram's Telangana Jana Samiti on 8 seats and CPI on 3 seats. Another point of debate is whether the Prajakutami alliance, which collectively had more vote share than the TRS in the last elections, would succeed in vote transfer among them. The TDP had an alliance with the BJP last time around, but this time the BJP is going it alone in the December 7th elections to the 119-member assembly. The equations have clearly changed. The architects of the Prajakutami say they came together due to a compulsion, the compulsion being the misrule, high-handedness and authoritarianism of KCR.
People do not like when they've been voting leaders for 5 years and they run away from governance 9 months or 6 months in advance. I think this government is going for sure. People have compared the Congress rule with the Chandrasekhar Rao government rule. And the comparison is so clear, stark as a daylight. And the mood is that this government is going and the Congress government is coming. And there is also a good alliance formed with Mr. Chandrababu Naidu's party, the four-party alliance. So the chances are victory absolutely sure. People are very upbeat.
The ruling TRS had 34.3% vote share in the 2014 elections, while the Congress and the TDP recorded 25.2 and 14.7% respectively. The combined vote share of Congress and TDP equals 39.9%, 5.6% more than that of the BJP. This gives an impression that if these vote shares reflect this time, Mahakutami would win. However, it is important to note that in the last 4 years, 27 sitting MLAs defected from parties, including the Congress and the TDP, giving the TRS 90 seats, the Congress just 13 and TDP 3 seats at the time of dissolution of the Assembly. The Telangana contest is likely to remain the litmus test for the Grand Alliance and its viability for the general elections next year. While the main opponent here is of course the TRS and not the BJP, the alliance will not only be tested for how well the partners coordinate their election strategies, but also their ability to do business with each other. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And joining us in our studio right now, Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist, and Smita Mishra, senior journalist as well. Before we go across to our panelists, Kavindra, let's go across to Rajat Kane, who's joining us from Telangana at the moment. Rajat Kane, as far as, the sense on the ground is concerned, give us a sense of the mood really on the ground and what are the issues that are dominating the discourse in Telangana?
Hi Frank, the issues definitely change with the region and the district, but by and large issues that are dominating are the drinking water. In northwest of Telangana there is a problem of drinking water, and especially in Kamaredi, Yellaredi and district regions adjoining Nizamabad constituency, they have a severe water crisis. That is something which the opposition parties are trying to take to public. Also, on the other hand, the problems faced by the small-scale industries, which is facing problems with the taxation system, so that is also on the radar of the opposition parties. Now, as far as the ruling incumbent is concerned, the TRS is concerned, they are quite confident. Whenever I spoken to them, whichever leader, be it the minister in the government or the sitting MLA or the cadres, they are quite confident of the second term. At the same time, I would say there is a slight buzz within the Congress and the TDP ranks as well. And given that TRS victory, if we speak to say of a couple of months ago, it was considered as granted one that TRS is coming back to power, and possibly that were the calculations by K. Chandrasekhar Rao when he dissolved the assembly. But right now, there is certain buzz in the opposition camp, and a lot of Congress leaders, they're claiming that their internal calculation says that they are coming to power. However, I would like to say that Congress is trying to do a business with a party which they have opposed, rather each of both TDP and the Congress have opposed each other for the last 35 years. TDP's foundation was staunch anti-Congressism. So maybe at the leadership level, the two parties have stretched an alliance, but also it depends upon the ground level whether the workers which have fought against each other tooth and nail in the last 35 years, would they be able to synergize each other's camps and try and get the voters to vote for the alliance.
Right. Frank. All right. Rajat, thank you for joining us there with those details from the ground in Telangana. Shekhar, as far as the Grand Alliance is concerned, there seem to be several members vying for these seats, and that seems to be a problem as far as they are concerned. Could it also be looked at in another way, that they feel extremely or supremely confident, and that's why so many people are vying for these seats?
No, I think there could be both the reasons at work. What is happening there is, as your ground reports also says, 2-3 months ago, at least when the time when KCR called the elections by, dissolving the assembly, it looked like it was going to be a cakewalk. Now with this new arrangement where you have Congress, TDP, you have a Telangana Samiti and the CPI, in terms of vote share of what they got 5 years ago, they are looking at a scenario that those vote share of these parties have remained intact and that they can outsmart TRS. But it's a tough challenge because I do not see Congress actually winning to displace TRS, but working to bring down the number which TRS had last time. But TRS itself is aware of the problems that are coming up now, particularly relating to some pockets of Telangana facing a lot of rural distress. Also, there are reports of problems involving, in terms of, the TRS being dominated by the KCR family. There are issues because some of the TRS leaders who are unhappy with ticket distribution decided by KCR and more by his son and his family. Some of them have left and even joined the Congress. These are some of the factors that have come.
Right.
But by and large, TRS continues to enjoy an advantage.
Absolutely.
And KCR is counting on number of steps, number of social schemes, particularly one he did to end the farmer, debt issues. So he is counting on what he has done and he is promising more.
Right.
लेकिन जिस तरीके से दो जो बातें आपने कही शिखर, इसमें तो उसमें थोड़ा सा समझना चाहूँगा कि एक तरफ जो उनकी रीच थी, जो उनके अपने खास लोग थे, उन्होंने भी आरोप लगाया कि उन्हें ज़्यादा मुलाकात नहीं हो पाती या वो उस तरह से सबकी पहुंच से बाहर हो चुके हैं, उसका खामियाजा कितना उनको भुगतना पड़ेगा। और दूसरा जो विपक्षी एकता की बात है, वो पहला लिटमस टेस्ट ज़मीन पर होने जा रहा है और शुरुआत हो रही है जब मंच साझा न करने को लेकर बयान आ चुका है। तो फिर ये हकीकत में ग्राउंड पर कार्यकर्ताओं को क्या वाकई जुड़ पाएगा या महज कागजों पर वोट शेयर जुड़ता दिखेगा?
नहीं, ये तो सही है कि कागजों पर जिस तरह से वोट शेयर जुड़ता दिख रहा है, जमीन पर इतना सीधा सिंपल हिसाब कभी हो नहीं सकता। और इस समय भी जैसा कि शेखर जी भी बता रहे थे, ये ठीक है कि केसीआर अब उस तरह से सक्रिय ग्राउंड पर नहीं है जिस तरह से वो एक समय में हुआ करते थे। और जिस आत्मविश्वास के साथ उन्होंने विधानसभा को भंग करने का फैसला लिया, उस समय ऐसा लग रहा था कि वहां पर जो लड़ाई है जमीन पर, उसमें केसीआर से दूर दूर तक कोई मुकाबला कोई नहीं कर पाएगा। लेकिन जहां वो खुद नहीं जा पाते, वहां अपने सुपुत्र को भेजते हैं। उनकी बेटी भी काफी प्रचार में लगी हुई हैं, कुछ उनके और चहेते नेता हैं। टीआरएस पर थोड़ा सा एक कोटरी का, एक फेवरेटिज्म का, पक्षपात का आरोप लगता रहा है। लेकिन महाकुटामी जो उनको चुनौती दे रही है इस समय, उसके बारे में भी कुछ बिंदु गौर करना जरूरी है। सबसे पहली बात यह है कि जो डॉक्टर कोदंडराम है, जिनका एक काफी आइकॉनिक स्थान है, क्योंकि तेलंगाना के गठन में उन्होंने कई दशकों से वो इसके लिए संघर्ष कर रहे थे। इस समय प्रोफेसर कोदंडराम काफी नाखुश बताए जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि शायद ऐसी जमीन से खबरें हैं कि कांग्रेस और टीडीपी के साथ मिलकर महाकुटामी में जो सीटों को लेकर अंडरस्टैंडिंग जो हुई थी, प्रोफेसर कोदंडराम का आरोप है कि उस पर लोगों ने अपनी बात को नहीं पूरा किया, अपनी कमिटमेंट को पूरा नहीं किया। जो कुछ जिले हैं जहां पर कि तेलंगाना राज्य में होने के बावजूद जो जनसंख्या है उसमें सीमांध्रा के लोग भी हैं काफी संख्या में, वहां टीडीपी को थोड़ा सा वोट मिलने की उम्मीद है। और कुछ हैदराबाद शहर के अंदर जो ऐसे लोग हैं जो तेलंगाना टेरिटरी में हैं मगर वो दरअसल आंध्र से जुड़े हैं, तो उनका टीडीपी की ओर थोड़ा सा झुकाव माना जा सकता है। लेकिन अभी भी जो असली जो तेलंगाना जो क्षेत्र है, जो तेलंगाना संस्कृति और तेलंगाना की असली धरती के जो जिले माने जाते हैं, वहां अभी भी टीआरएस ने जो शुरुआत में एक बढ़त ले ली राज्य के गठन के समय, उसको ये सब लोग मिलकर भी उस हद तक चैलेंज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं कि अभी वोटिंग से कुछ हफ्ते पहले ऐसा कहा जा सके कि चंद्रशेखर राव हार जाएंगे। ये जरूर है कि जिन जिन सीटों पर कांग्रेस के कुछ दिग्गज नेता थे जो तेलंगाना के गठन के समय जनता के सेंटिमेंट्स को देखते हुए टीआरएस में चले गए थे, उनके लौटने से थोड़ा सा कांग्रेस के वोट बचाए जा सकते हैं। लेकिन महाकुटामी के अलग अलग जो सदस्य पार्टियां हैं, वो जो कई सीटों पर एक दूसरे के खिलाफ कैंडिडेट खड़े कर रही हैं और वो ऐसा संदेश देने की कोशिश कर रही है कि ये फ्रेंडली फाइट के लिए किया जा रहा है। इससे मुझे लगता है कि थोड़ा सा वोटर में गफलत की स्थिति बनेगी, भले वो इसको फ्रेंडली फाइट कहें। और कई जगह पर प्रोफेसर कोदंडराम है, कई जगह टीडीपी है जिसने अपने ही अलायंस के बंधुओं के खिलाफ उन्होंने कैंडिडेट का ऐलान कर दिया है। उसको लेकर बातचीत अभी भी चल रही है। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो चैलेंजेस हैं, थोड़ा समय और पहले अगर महाकुटामी बन गई होती और इसको लेकर तमाम सीटों को लेकर एग्रीमेंट्स स्पष्ट हो गए होते तो शायद टीआरएस के लिए कठिन हो जाता ये चुनाव। लेकिन ये देर से हुआ गठबंधन और होने के बाद भी अभी भी कई मुद्दे हैं जो बीच में इनको दिक्कत कर रहे हैं। तो मुझे लगता है कि अभी तक टीआरएस बढ़त बनाए हुए है। हाँ, ये जरूर है कि तेलंगाना की राजनीति में जो एक समय हमने पिछले वर्षों में देखा जब टीआरएस को कोई चुनौती देने वाला नहीं था, ये चुनाव इतना आसान न मिस्टर केसीआर के लिए होने वाला है और ना उनकी पार्टी के।
Absolutely, it's not going to be a walkover, certainly, and it's going to be a tough fight there in Telangana. In the meantime, of course, we spoke to Rajat Kane earlier. He spoke to others as well. BJP leaders in Telangana are confident that Prime Minister Modi's Midas touch with the electorate will ensure the parties win in the assembly elections. They also claim that the ruling TRS has failed to deliver on the promises it made to the electorate, especially housing and health for the poor. Meanwhile, the TRS leaders claim that the electorate is happy with the party's performance and willing to give it a second term. Our correspondent Rajat Kane brings you this report.
What are the issues BJP is contesting this election on?
प्रधान मुद्दा यहाँ पर जो है, यहाँ पर यहाँ का सरकार जो है चुनाव से पहले ये वादा किया कि हर परिवार को जिसको घर नहीं है उसके लिए दो रूम का घर दूंगा, लेकिन एक घर भी अभी तक नहीं दिया। और जो वो घर बनाने का निर्णय जो है 2022 तक नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जो उनका वादा है, पक्का वादा, जो 2022 तक सबको घर देने का वो वादा हम पूरा करेंगे। मोदी का जो छवि है अब राज्य पे राज्य जीतते जा रहा है, वो इसी तरह तेलंगाना में रोज दिन का दिन ये जो भाजपा का पकड़ बढ़ रहा है और इसके लिए पब्लिक का जो हमारी ओर ध्यान बढ़ रहा है और जिताने का मन बढ़ रहा है।
आपका लड़ाई किससे है इस टाइम तेलंगाना में? टीआरएस से है या फिर जो कांग्रेस, टीडीपी और बाकी जो अलायंस हुआ है महाकुटमी, उनसे है?
यहाँ का मेरा लड़ाई यहाँ कांग्रेस का उम्मीदवार से मेरा लड़ाई है, तेलंगाना राष्ट्र समिति का उम्मीदवार से मेरा लड़ाई नहीं है। उन्होंने पिछड़ रहा है।
कांग्रेस बोल रहा है कि बीजेपी और टीआरएस का एक सीक्रेट अलायंस है, क्या ऐसा है?
कांग्रेस और एमआईएम का एजेंडा एक ही है, उनका मेन एजेंडा से वो दोनों अलग अलग नहीं है, लेकिन उनका जो साथी है छूट के टीआरएस के साथ जा रहा है, उसके लिए उनका दर्द है, इसलिए बीजेपी के साथ वो जोड़ने का कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
What is that going to public to give you vote for a second term?
Yeah, people have seen like a lot of development in Nizamabad. Those have not seen from past 40 years. We are challenging and with the people, and we are telling them that after Hyderabad, this is going to be the most beautiful city in Telangana.
I spoke to your challenger, they spoke to your opponents. They're saying areas such as housing for poor in urban areas and rural areas, and health sector seems to be much work needs to be done over there. Nothing much has been done. What do you have to say?
The government of Telangana already announced that two-bedroom house, which is like the Honorable Chief Minister of Telangana has announced 1,500 houses for us, which they are almost close to finish. 400 are close to finish and 1,100 under construction. After that, we laid the foundation for 1,000 more.
What about the Congress and TDP alliance? It's something which the two parties which were never an ally before has come into alliance. Is that posing problems for TRS?
See, actually, no matter how many parties are getting together, as long as people are with you, so we don't mind how many parties are joining, who is joining with whom. Telangana people are decided to vote TRS. So even if they add few more parties also, we don't need to worry about it.
There are certain parties like Congress and TDP, they're saying BJP and TRS happens to be in some tacit alliance. So, I mean, will they be a post-poll scenario where BJP and TRS are coming together, or TRS on its own is going to form the government?
Whatever TRS does, it does openly. And now we are fighting alone again. So there is no question of we are joining with BJP or any other party.
So there we have Mr. Gupta claiming that whatever they have will do it in the open, and it's achievements of the incumbent government that will bring them back to power. With camera person Mr. Suresh from Nizamabad, Rajat Kane for Rajya Sabha TV.
Shekhar, we spoke about the Grand Alliance, we spoke about the TRS. There are other players in Telangana as well. What are, what does the future hold for them, and what are their chances really in these elections, be it the BJP, be it the AIMIM and the other parties?
Yeah, Majlis this time, they are openly supporting TRS. This is a very interesting thing because last time it was all tacit. But this time it's an open understanding. MIM is backing TRS, which means MIM will try to ensure the Muslim votes go to TRS in places where it is not directly contesting. This is important thing to note because MIM is directly charging the Congress of trying to sabotage its own chances. We just heard the other day OVC coming with the allegation that money was paid, attempt was being made to bribe his party people to cancel a particular meeting. So therefore you can see the aggressiveness in which MIM is trying to help TRS. This is one interesting factor. The other thing is the BJP. Now BJP, the allegation against TRS is that it's a secret friend of the BJP, that in the event of a scenario in 2019, TRS could well be backing the Prime Minister, Modi. And it's no secret that TRS, particularly KCR, has good occasions with the Prime Minister. Now here what we are seeing is, see, when Telangana was, the movement for Telangana started and finally ended in creation of the state, both Congress and BJP supported Telangana. Now Congress thought of dividing the state for the simple reason they thought they could perhaps lose in the coastal areas. So let us actually get the credit for creating the new state. But what happened was TRS walked away with the credit and the Congress came to naught. And they lost in the coastal areas also. Now here is a scenario. Now for the BJP, there's not much to choose, but BJP has had pockets of influence in Telangana. And this time what I can see is BJP wants to ensure that those pockets of influence get converted into seats in the assembly. Now, a scenario where, suppose the TRS is not enabled to form the government, is short of numbers, what would be the BJP's role? Would the BJP like to see a TRS in power there or a Congress led? I think a third factor we have to keep in mind. Now, TDP was essentially against creation of Telangana.
Yeah.
It has those Andhra people settled in Hyderabad, Secunderabad and all, who have some allegiance to TDP. Now, but that cannot be a very big factor because after all, TDP is a party of the neighboring Andhra Pradesh, not Telangana. So these pockets, I mean, what big purpose would serve for the voters? They are voting for a TDP, which is not in any case, calling shots in Telangana. Because after all, the TDP role here is Chandrababu Naidu and KCR go back to the old days in the Congress and even in TDP when KCR and Chandrababu Naidu had a lot of issues. Now, what I get to hear is, if once the KCR finishes this election and suppose he emerges winner, he has taken a vow that he would go on campaign in coastal Andhra Pradesh during the Lok Sabha elections to finish Chandrababu Naidu. This is what I get to hear from TRS camp.
खत्म हो रहा उससे पहले मैं चाहूँगा बहुत संक्षेप में क्या पुरानी दोस्ती और पुराना जो वजूद था खड़े होने का तेलंगाना के साथ और जो तेलंगाना का इमोशनल मुद्दा था वो इस बार भी यानी कि उसी की कढ़ाई पर सब कुछ पकता नजर आएगा या उससे अलग मुद्दों पर भी?
नहीं, दो चीजें मुझे लगता है कि डोमिनेट करेंगी इस कैंपेन में अभी तक जो समझ में आ रहा है मुझे। एक तो टीआरएस, जैसा कि शेखर जी ने भी बताया, टीआरएस की पूरी कोशिश ये रहेगी कि वो ये दिखा सके कि अगर आज की डेट में तेलंगाना का अलग राज्य गठित हुआ है तो वो केवल और केवल तेलंगाना राष्ट्र समिति और विशेष रूप से मिस्टर केसीआर के उनकी संघर्ष के चलते ये संभव हुआ है। अब बीजेपी के जो बड़े नेता हैं, और मैं ये जोड़ दूं कि भले ही अभी ऐसा नहीं लग रहा कि बीजेपी तेलंगाना में सरकार बनाने, राज्य में सरकार गठन करने के मकसद से चुनाव लड़ रही है, लेकिन पार्टी के जो सबसे दिग्गज नेता हैं और भाजपा अध्यक्ष और प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी को लेकर मैं ये कह रही हूं कि वो अपनी तरफ से वहां कैंपेन में कोई कसर नहीं रख रहे हैं। कैंपेन तेलंगाना में भी उतनी ही गंभीरता से लिया जा रहा है जितना कि अन्य राज्यों में। तो मैं ये कहना चाह रही हूं कि बीजेपी वहां के लोगों में ये जो एक विश्वास है, एक सेंटिमेंट संदेश देने की कोशिश कर रही है कि आज जो आपका अलग राज्य का गठन हुआ है, जो दशकों से आप संघर्ष कर रहे थे, उसमें हमने जो भूमिका निभाई केंद्र में लोकसभा में वो बहुत अहम है। और यही नहीं, एक बार जब राज्य का गठन हो गया तो राज्य में विकास के रास्ते पे जितना कुछ हो रहा है उसमें नरेंद्र मोदी के नेतृत्व वाली सरकार का पूरा 100% उसका सहयोग है और आगे भी रहेगा। तो ये मुझे लगता है 2019 की राजनीति को नजर में रखकर किया जा रहा है। लेकिन जो दूसरे खिलाड़ी हैं, जो महाकुटामी के सदस्य हैं, मुझे लगता है कि वो थोड़ा सा इस क्षेत्र में थोड़ा कमजोर पड़ते मुझे नजर आ रहे हैं, क्योंकि कांग्रेस को लेकर राज्य के गठन के समय ही थोड़ी नाराजगी हो गई थी और टीडीपी का तो ये डिक्लेयर्ड स्टैंड रहा है कि वो विभाजन नहीं चाहते थे। तो इसीलिए इस कम से कम राज्य गठन के मुद्दे पर भाजपा और टीआरएस थोड़ा सा उनकी छवि बेहतर इसमें मजबूत दिखाई देती है।
चले, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप दोनों मेहमानों का हमारे साथ इस चर्चा में शामिल होने के लिए। फ्रैंक, बहुत अहम है कि तेलंगाना में जो मसला था अलग राज्य को लेकर और जो विरोध कर रहे थे वो एक साथ खड़े नजर आ रहे हैं। मुद्दा बड़ा होगा या एक बार फिर से जो इमोशनल कार्ड था वो ज्यादा हाई एंड पे होगा?
It remains to be seen. Of course, it's going to be an exciting, contest for Telangana in the days to come. And of course, on the 11th of December, all will be revealed before us as to which way the voter has gone. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Battleground 2018. Thank you to both our guests for joining us on the program and sharing their views on Telangana as well. From Kavindra Sachan and me, that's it for now. Thank you.